Good morning. You know, when I was traveling here from home, that difficult journey, I think it took 10 minutes, I was just thankful that Nina and Kenny and Bioneers and all of you decided to converge with us in Berkeley and East Bay. So I'm going to be talking to you about stories and about the future. And stories that hopefully we will all participate in making, writing, being, living. We need a new story. We need a more complex story. We need a story about the future that honors the past. We need a story about belonging. We all have multiple stories. Like many of you, my story started with my mom and dad. My dad taught me how to love the world. My mom taught me how to love humanity. We have many stories. I remember reading a book called The World As Lover, The World As Self. And I said, wow, I got to meet this person, Joanna Macy. And I sat down with Joanna Macy in a cafe in Berkeley at our first meeting. And Joanna said, what's your story? Joanna, I don't know if you remember that. And if you don't, I can make up a lot of stuff. And I said, well, Joanna, you know, we have many stories. None of them are completely true or complete. She said, of course, just pick one. And so we have many stories. And I want to start off with the story that we live with today. And when I say stories, that might sound like something unimportant. But we don't have a self unless we have a story. We live in collective story. Money is a story. And yet it's a story that most of us hold really tight. And if you're inclined, read the 5,000-year history of money. It goes and it comes. It's something that we collectively engage in or not. So the story early on, in terms of what we call Western civilization, was a story about separation. And if you go back and look at it, there were at least 4 major separations that are key to the story coming out of Western civilization. One was separation between humans and God or the divine. Another was separation from humans and the planet. A third was separation between what we call European people and everybody else. And the fourth was separation of mind and body. And that's the story that we've been inhabiting for hundreds of years now and pushing on other people. We sometimes sum it up by talking about individualism or capitalism. You're in it for yourself. And that story that we embraced is a story that produced tremendous anxiety, tremendous fear, tremendous psychosis. My father was a Christian minister. He and my mom have since passed. And I asked him, I said, so Dad, what is death? What is sin? And he said, sin is separation. So we have a society that's built on death. And in that separation, there's tremendous anxiety and fear. And the way we try to tame that fear is through domination. So we try to dominate the things we can't understand. So most of us enjoy going to a park walking on the grass, sitting on the benches. But you don't have to go far to look at Grimm's fairy tales to realize that forests, which can't be controlled so easily, is full of danger. There's the big bad wolf. There's something terrible waiting to consume you. So this notion that if we can't control it, if we can't dominate it, we need to be afraid of it. So our society runs on fear. And that fear is expressed now through a concept called othering. Othering. Othering is an expression which basically says, I am not part of you. I am not connected to you. Deepest dark Africa, inscrutable Chinese, savage Native Americans, women who are too close to nature, they have periods. Wow. And in all those cases, we say those others can't fully belong. So we talk about a circle of human concern where everyone is in the circle. And appropriately, some people pushed back, said, why just humans? A good reminder. But another reminder is humans come from the word humus, which means to be of the earth. So the earth doesn't belong to us, we belong to the earth. If we are to take care of ourselves, if that's even possible, we have to be in relationship with the earth. Ubuntu, some of you know the word. I am because you are. I am because you are. I'm from Detroit. I am because you are. So when Diana Ross says, my life is empty without you, babe, I realized she was saying something deeper than I thought. Sawabanu. I see you. The Zulu word, Sawabanu. I see you. Another interpretation of it is the God in me sees the God in you. We are connected. We are profoundly a part of each other. It's not an abstraction. Literally, we come into this world physically connected to another human being. That's an amazing thing. And spiritually, if we are to thrive, that connection will never be severed. So what's our new story? First of all, I want to suggest it's not my story. It's not your story. It's our story. It's our story. All of our story. And to actually embrace this story and tell this story from this place of extraction and death takes imagination, takes creativity, takes experimentation. It means seeing something that's not fully visible. And the story I think we have to tell is a story where everybody, but everybody belongs. That every human being is recognized full of dignity. And some people say, that's whatever. That's Berkeley woo-woo. And I say, so? But I remind people that our neighbor north of us has called itself a belonging nation. They want to be a nation where people belong, where everyone belongs. When you walk around the cities, they have signs for people who are immigrants saying, we've been waiting for you, welcome. They eliminated the death penalty. In the United States, we're still fighting over people who smoked marijuana when it was still considered illegal, not being able to vote when they come out of jail, not being able to get a scholarship to go to college, not being able to get support to live in affordable housing. And it just so happens that a disproportionate number of those people are people of color. We're saying to those people, you don't belong, not only while you're in prison, but even when you come out. You don't belong. You're suspect. What are you doing here? We literally have politicians saying to other politicians, go back to where you come from. Go back to where you belong. In Canada, and I'm not holding Canada up as Mecca. Mecca is Mecca. In Canada, you maintain the right to vote while you're in prison. In many countries in the world, including Canada, they've eliminated the death penalty. And when you go back and look at the discussion about why eliminate the death penalty, they're not saying they're not bad actors. They're not saying everybody's an angel. They're not saying we never need to protect ourselves from some of us. But they're saying you are part of the community, that you never forfeit your humanity. You never forfeit your human dignity. And when you act up, we'll act appropriately, but that does not include denying your humanity. In this country, we still have a hard time recognizing people's humanity to begin with. So the new story has to be a story where everyone's humanity, everyone's dignity is given, that everyone belongs, but everyone. And we have to tell that story. We have to imagine that story. We have to dream that story. And the importance of dreaming is extremely important to help us break out of our bad habits. If we're going to have a world where everyone belongs, where all different aspects of John Powell belongs, of those multiple stories that I began to share with Joanna Macy's belongs, it means we have to loosen some stuff up. We have to let some stuff go. We have to let go some of that fear. We have to let go the need to dominate. We have to let go the need to control. If I was in a different setting, I'd say we have to let go the ideological concept of whiteness. And I should be clear, I'm not talking about people who call themselves white. You are part of our future. We are part of each other. I am because you are. But we do have to let go of that ideology of domination and superiority. That feels strange. How do I do that? We have to be able to dream. We have to be able to invent. One of my favorite American philosophers talked about that. And of course, some of you will recognize his name, Richard Pryor. And there's a skit where he's in court, and the judge is about to sentence him. And the judge says, "Do you want to say anything, Mr. Pryor?" And he says, "Judge, you've taken away my freedom. You've taken away my dignity. You've taken away my family. Is there anything else you want?" And the judge leans over and says, "Do you have any dreams?" And Toni Morrison says, "A people cannot live without dreaming." And so one of the things that the system does is take away our dreams and take away our ability to imagine, to create the future that belongs to all of us. And the past is important. We have to pay attention to the past. It's our teacher. But we shouldn't let the influence of the past distract us from creating the future. So you've heard a lot of amazing speakers today and throughout. And sometimes people think about, what do we need? What's the stuff that we need? A new watch, a new iPhone? Someone was talking about artificial intelligence. And I said, that's an interesting idea, but shouldn't we start with human intelligence? We're not talking about simply making more stuff or making a better world for us. We're talking about creating new selves. We're talking about making new people. We're talking about, in the Christian faith, talking about being reborn. And that's the heavy order. But I believe the thing that will hold us, and we did live in containers, we need houses, we need places to stay warm. But we have to hold each other. Years ago, I was in India, and I was shocked by people living on the street. And I thought, how could a country allow something like that? And then to come back to the United States, and year after year I see, we are doing that. We're stepping over people. We're saying they don't count. We're saying they're not part of us. To me, ultimately, these are not technical problems. These are not simply political problems. These are fundamentally spiritual problems. If we can reclaim the fact that we all belong to each other and we belong to the earth, then all these other things are solvable. And I believe that your being here and the work of Bioneers and all the great speakers point in that direction. But we won't get there without a new story. So join me, join each other, join the earth in creating and celebrating a new story where we all belong. Thank you.